So what do we need to do as BAs here? We need to first make sure that the requirements are of good quality. And for that, what we were discussing the other day in terms of making the requirements complete, ensuring that consistent, atomic, concise, feasible, prioritized, testable, understandable, accurate, all of those verifiable, estimatable. In the context of agile, it would be about the invest principle, making sure it's all independent, they are negotiable, they're verifiable, estimatable, sizable, and testable, right? So that's the important sets of attributes of a requirement. If you do not have any requirement which meets these this set of criteria, then perhaps you need to actually go back and see how can you try and make it more atomic, how can you try and make it concise, how can you make it more feasible, what are the different aspects that you need to consider to prioritize those. So for example, using Moscow principle, right? All of those need to be done here. And once you ensure that the requirements meet these standards and or of this kind of parameters, then you would make sure that you carry on with compliance. If you need to check the compliance with respect to the organizational standards, with respect to regulatory standards, for example, if it's banking and risk related stuff, insurance, you need to check with the industry standard and domain specific regulatory compliance. Is it meeting those standards? If it is automobile, is it meeting the standards of Euro emissions and all that, for example? So all of those need to be really considered. Healthcare, HL7, HIPAA, those are the standards that need to be met. So all of those, you're trying to make sure that not just with respect to your organization specific concepts, but also the industry guidelines and industry standards. And then you need to make sure that you've got the correct set of notions, the templates. You've used the latest template and not something that was dated, because perhaps things would have moved on. We would have added more features or made it more concise and simple. So we need to kind of use those as the baseline for us. And then we also need to make sure that you are comparing these requirements, the models, the prototypes against important things which are accepted within your own organization, with your own team. So you don't really make out of the way assumptions or constraints. You've got something to base your models, your requirements against. And for that, there could be a kind of a checklist that you can use. You can use some of the checklists, some of the standards that you have, like W3C, the World Wide Web community, which is basically the W3C standards for defining the website accessibility guidelines, for example. Or you can try and use IEEE, the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers. They came up with a set of standards and protocols that need to be followed. Similarly, AIEEE, each of these different bodies have come up with their own way of defining the standards of quality. Some of them, for example, even ISO, the British standards and the ISO standards could also be followed as a kind of a checklist, whether you've covered all the bases. And that's important for you to say, yes, these are now for good quality.